Our tax cuts will restore America's competitive edge and lower the crushing tax burden on the American people.
Yeah, not really if you live in our area especially. The Republican majority House passed a budget yesterday that moves it one step closer to implementing the big GOP tax plan. And it won't need Democratic support because of a procedural maneuver that lets them pass that bill with just a simple majority instead of the 60 votes you would otherwise need in the Senate. Now, the president and his party are selling this whole thing as a tax break for the middle class. But when you take a closer look, surprise, surprise, it really isn't. Here are some of the details. The plan slashes the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%. It reduces the number of tax brackets from 7 to 3, and it drops the rate on the top tax bracket by nearly 5%. It eliminates the estate tax for wealthy people who have more than $5.5 million to leave to their loved ones. That's about 4,200 people in the country. It repeals the alternative minimum tax, or AMT, that wealthy people often use to lower their tax burdens. And it also allows individuals to funnel certain types of income into businesses, or business income rather, that's taxed at a lower rate. It would also, and here's the part that rings true in our region, it would get rid of the deduction for state and local taxes. And that would slam people, particularly from our region. The average New York taxpayer would have to pay more than $4,000 a year, $4,000 more a year in their taxes. If you're in New Jersey, it would only be just a little bit less than that. That explains why 20 House Republicans voted against the bill, and 11 of them are from New York and New Jersey. Who voted yes? Well, you got to go way upstate. Tom Reed and Chris Collins, both from Western New York, the only congresspeople from New York who voted for the plan. This sounds, Charlie, suspiciously like a tax plan that is aimed at blue states and having them subsidize what's going on in red states. Is that your read of it too?
That's exactly my read, and and the thing that makes me happy about this, when we were talking, offline, that Scott Vanderhoff is joining the Democratic Party, and I'm very excited about that.
Well, we've broken some news here on RFL.
Well, this is, it happens a lot, but I think, Scott, you ready to make the announcement now?
Thanks, Charlie.
Scott, I take it you had a less than charitable view of the GOP tax plan. We haven't talked, but based on what Charlie said.
For those of us who live here, it's a killer because what's Westchester, the #1 in the country, I believe, in property tax. So you got Rockland, you got Long Island. So those Republican officials who voted against it did the right thing, and I'm hoping that they have influence over the rest before this thing passes, because what is it? I think the comptroller said $72 billion maybe at stake here in New York overall. So I mean, this is, for New Yorkers, going back to your point, this is not a good tax thing, and it's got to be changed. And I hope it will be.
Surprise you at all, Dom, to see? I mean, every Republican in the region, from Lee Zeldin all the way to Leonard Lance, all voted no. That surprise you at all?
Well, first of all, anything the President of the United States does not surprise me. Now, you asked specifically about the New York congressional delegation, the folks that voted against this. Good for them. They're doing what they're elected to do, which is represent the local people in their area. I just want to go back to this point, that we've seen how the president is at war with some members of his own party, the GOP. So I know he doesn't need the traditional rules of the Senate to get this passed, as you set up. But I wouldn't be so sure. We'll see what happens, given of how bad his relationship is with the GOP right now. He is not very liked.
So, but is it more incumbent on him, or you think his operating under, we need to pass a tax plan, or we need to pass this tax plan?
I think for him, he wants a victory.
Right.
I mean, for a president that has had very few victories.
But that begs
so he's trying to give them what they want.
But then that begs the question, Scott, if it's just about getting something passed, why not pass something that's a little more palatable to blue state Republicans and blue state Democrats, for that matter, as opposed to the Heritage Foundation's dream list of a tax plan?
You know, I've said many times on the show, I don't think he has a principle on policy. I think anything that gets passed and gives him a check on the win side is going to be all right, which is for him, okay? Which is why the more stable folks who realize that a lot of states like New Jersey and New York and Eastern have got to talk more about this and put it into the formula and calculation to determine how badly people are going to be hit in very high tax states. It's awfully important.
See, I actually disagree. I think when he first came into office, he had a real opportunity to realign politics. He could have brought in my view, African Americans into a new alignment of and Latinos, frankly, notwithstanding all the stuff he was talking about. But he brought in the Bannons of the world, and he made, in my view, an idea that there was a true us against them. And the Scott Vanderhoffs of the world were not on his side. They were more on our side of the equation. And as hard as you might struggle, and other Republicans who actually have a mind and a conscience and trying to straddle and try to make sense of what's clearly nonsensical, you're going to find that you're going to be on our side. And that's what's happening with these policies, and that's where we are.
Like with so many issues, the only thing that can stop Republicans from passing this thing are the Republicans themselves, if they can't all get on the same page. They should be able to pass this because enough Republicans want to be able to go home and say that they sold tax cuts or tax reform. Charlie, how do Democrats fight back against this? And can they use it to their advantage in the midterms next year?
Yeah, no, I think that they can. I mean, I think that, like you said, with the blue states out there, this clearly hurts the middle class. He makes it easy for us to rally our base. I've said very early on that we were in disarray at the very beginning. He's making it easier for us to create a narrative of the us against them. Before, it was us against them. Now it really is us against them, and he's made it clear, and it's made it simple for us to rally. Going back to Westchester, for example, Astorino is a real clear example where he is the symbol of Trump on a local level. George Latterman has come a long way, but it is an us against them race.
Challenge now for Democrats is to find a policy and a platform that's up beyond just anti-Trump. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the National Archives just released thousands of pages of documents about the Kennedy assassination. They've never been made public. We're going to show you what was in them and talk about what they mean for all the conspiracy theorists out there.